Do you remember where you were when Arsenal got knocked out of the Champions League last season? That painful feeling when you knew the team had the quality but just could not get over the line? Well, this week was different. This week Arsenal did what needed to be done. They held firm, kept a clean sheet at the Emirates against Sporting CP, and booked their place in the Champions League semi-finals for the second season in a row. And it all came down to one goal. One late Kai Havertz strike in Lisbon last week. That was the difference. A 0-0 draw at home was enough to send the Gunners through on a 1-0 aggregate scoreline. Now Arsenal are in the final four of European football. Atletico Madrid stand between them and a shot at the biggest prize in club football. That is the reality of where this team is right now. So today on Gooner TV, we are going to break everything down for you. We are going to talk about how the night went, who performed well, who did not, and what that viral Thierry Henry tweet is really about. We are going to be honest, we are going to be fair, and most importantly, we are going to talk about what matters most to all of us as Arsenal fans. Let us get into it. How the night actually went. If you watched the game expecting Arsenal to put on a show and cruise through, you probably ended up a little frustrated. The truth is, it was a scrappy match. Both teams found it hard to get going, and the quality of football was not always great to watch. But here is the thing. Arsenal did not need to play beautiful football on this night. They already had the lead from the first leg. Their job was simply to not lose the game, and they did exactly that. In the first half, Arsenal actually started pretty well. There was a good energy about them, and you could see they were trying to take control of the match early. The brightness came mainly through Gyokeres, who was really lively and looked sharp behind the front three. Almost every good moment Arsenal had in attack in the first half came through him. He was linking play, driving forward, and causing Sporting problems with his movement. But despite that good start, Arsenal could not find a way to score. And just when you thought the first half would end quietly, Sporting CP hit the post through Jenny Katamo. That was a moment that reminded every Arsenal fan watching that this tie was not completely finished yet. One mistake, one moment of poor defending, and it could have been a completely different night. The second half was a little better from Arsenal. They looked slightly more controlled, and the substitutions Mikel Arteta made helped change the energy of the game. Leandro Trossard came on and actually hit the post himself late on, which summed up the night, really. Both teams hitting the woodwork, both teams unable to find the net. A 0-0 draw that ultimately sent Arsenal through. So no, it was not a classic night of football at the Emirates, but Arsenal got the job done. And right now, that is what matters most. Let us ask you this. Do you think Arsenal need to play better football going into the semi-finals, or was this kind of performance understandable given the pressure of the situation, player by player, who shone and who struggled? Now let us get into the individual performances, because this is where it gets really interesting for us as fans. David Raya started in goal, and while he did not have much to do in terms of shot stopping, there was one moment in the first half where he played a really risky pass. The kind of pass that could have been punished by a better team on a better night. Raya has been brilliant for Arsenal this season, but that moment was a small reminder that even the best goalkeepers can have an off moment. Overall, though, a 6 out of 10 night for him. At the back, Arsenal looked mostly solid. Christian Mosquera came in at right back in place of Ben White, and while he did his defensive job, well, his impact going forward was limited. William Saliba had another strong battle with Suarez, who was a real handful again throughout the game. But Saliba dealt with it well, as he almost always does. Gabriel Magalhaes was strong and commanding in the heart of defence. Piero Hincapié was also good to see, back in the starting 11 after some time out. He looked fit and got up and down the left side well. The back four as a unit did what they needed to do. A clean sheet in a knockout European tie is always a good night for defenders. In midfield, the standout performer on the night was Martin Zubimendi. This was his best performance in a while, according to many people who watched the game closely. He looked much sharper than he has in recent weeks. He was controlling the tempo in the first half, driving forward when he had the chance, and generally just looking like the player Arsenal paid good money to bring in. It was an impressive display and gave fans a reminder of just how good this man can be when he is at his best. Declan Rice took an early knock on his ankle early in the game, which seemed to slow him down for a while. But being the warrior that he is, he dusted himself down and put in a typically solid shift. Rice is the kind of player you just trust to get on with it no matter what. Ebereki Eze was the brightest attacking player on the night by a long way. He started the game really well, and almost everything positive that Arsenal created in the first half went through him. The only downside is that he faded in the second half as tiredness seemed to catch up with him. But you can understand that. He gives everything every time he is on the pitch, and that takes a toll. Now let us talk about the front three, because this is where the night was really disappointing. Noni Madueke had a really poor game. He struggled with his touch all night, and when he did get into spaces, he could not take advantage of them. There will be questions asked about whether he is the right fit for a big European night at the Emirates. He got a 3 out of 10 rating, and honestly, it is hard to argue with that. Victor Gyokeres. Now, this was the story of the night for many people. The big Swedish striker coming back to face his former club, Sporting CP. This was supposed to be a moment for him. Instead, it was a night he will want to forget quickly. He was technically poor throughout, and it was no surprise when he was taken off before the hour mark. He also got a 3 out of 10, and when you watch back the footage, it is hard to find moments where he made a real impact. Gabriel Martinelli was probably the best of the three attackers on the night, but as the ratings suggest, that is not saying a great deal. He put in a good shift and worked hard, but could not find that moment of quality to make a difference. Off the bench, Kai Havertz came on for Gyokeres and added a bit more quality to the team without really testing the Sporting keeper. Max Daumann got some minutes and lifted the crowd when he came on, which is always a positive sign for a young player. Trossard was on late and hit the post, as we mentioned. Gabriel Jesus had a good run into the box, but could not squeeze the shot in at the near post. Manager Mikel Arteta gets a 7 out of 10, and it feels right. His changes did make an impact as the game went on and the team improved in the second half, but he still has some big decisions to make ahead of the weekend and ahead of the semi-finals. Which Arsenal player do you think needs to step up the most ahead of the Atletico Madrid tie? Victor Gyokeres. The homecoming that went wrong. We have to spend a bit more time on Victor Gyokeres because there is a real story here that goes beyond just one bad game. When Arsenal signed Gyokeres, there was a lot of excitement. This was a player who had been absolutely on fire for Sporting CP. Goals, assists, big performances in Europe. He was one of the most talked about strikers in world football. Arsenal fans were excited, and rightly so. But bringing him back to face his former club was always going to be a test of his character and his quality at this level. And on this particular night, the challenge proved too much for him. He looked uncomfortable. He was not winning his duels. His touch let him down multiple times, and he was hauled off before the hour mark, which is never a good sign. Now, to be fair to Gyokeres, this is just one game. Players have bad nights, even the great ones. You cannot write off a player based on one performance against a team that knows him better than anyone. His former teammates knew his runs, his habits, and how he likes to play. They would have had a detailed plan to stop him specifically. But the question that Arsenal fans need to start asking is whether Gyokeres has truly settled into life at Arsenal. Is he getting the service he needs? Is he understanding how Arteta wants his team to play? And most importantly, is the team being built around his strengths? These are not questions that have easy answers right now, but they are conversations that need to happen within the Arsenal community. What do you think? Is Gyokeres just settling in, or should Arsenal fans be more concerned about his performances? Now about that Thierry Henry tweet. Okay, let us talk about something that has been going around on social media. If you have been on X or Twitter in the last day or two, you may have seen a tweet from an account called The Touchline, going out with what looks like a quote from Thierry Henry saying, "Come on, Arsenal, show the fire at the Etihad. I believe in you. Now we have to be straight with you here at Gooner TV because that is what we do." That tweet is almost certainly not real. Here is why. First of all, the account that posted it is called The Touchline with the handle Touchline X. This is not a verified major sports media outlet. It does not appear to be a well-known or trusted source. These kinds of fan pages and semi-official looking accounts post unverified quotes all the time because they know people will share them. Second, and this is the big one, the quote talks about showing fire at the Etihad. The Etihad is the home ground of Manchester City. But Arsenal are not playing Manchester City. They are playing Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals. Atletico play at the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid. So if Thierry Henry did say this quote, it makes no sense whatsoever in the context of what is actually happening with Arsenal right now. Third, the framing of the tweet feels very much like engagement bait. The kind of post designed to get Arsenal fans to share it and comment without thinking too hard about whether it is actually real. We know how much Thierry Henry means to this football club. He is a legend, an icon, and his voice carries real weight in the Arsenal community. That is exactly why fake accounts use his name to get attention, because they know Arsenal fans will react. So our advice is simple. Before you share anything like this, check the source. Is it a major verified outlet? Has any credible journalist reported the same quote? Can you find the original video or interview where it was said? If you cannot find any of those things, then treat it with real skepticism. Thierry Henry may well have spoken about Arsenal and the Champions League semi-final. He almost certainly has an opinion. But until a credible outlet confirms what he actually said, we should not be spreading quotes that may be completely made up. What do you think? Have you been caught out by fake football quotes on social media before? Let us know in the comments. Atletico Madrid are waiting. Are Arsenal ready? Let us now look forward, because that is where our focus needs to be. Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals. They will face Atletico Madrid. This is a massive tie. Atletico under Diego Simeone are one of the most difficult teams in Europe to beat. They are physical, they are organised, they are street smart, and they have players who can hurt you on the counter-attack. This will be a completely different challenge compared to what Arsenal faced against Sporting CP. Sporting were a quality side, but they had vulnerabilities. Atletico Madrid are built differently. They will sit deep, they will be hard to break down, and they will look to punish Arsenal on the break. For Arsenal to go through, they are going to need performances that are significantly better than what we saw on Wednesday night. The front three need to be sharper. The midfield needs to control games better, and the defense needs to continue being the solid unit it has been throughout this campaign. Arteta mentioned after the game that he has big decisions to make ahead of Sunday, first in the Premier League and then with one eye on the European tie. Those decisions around his starting 11 are going to be fascinating to watch. Does Gyokeres keep his place up front? Does Madueke get another chance to impress? Does Eza start and finish games rather than fading in the second half? These are the questions that will define Arsenal's chances in the semi-final. There is also the question of what Atletico will do tactically. Simeone is one of the best tacticians in world football. He will have studied Arsenal closely. He will know their strengths and weaknesses. He will set up his team to make life as difficult as possible for the Gunners. Arsenal will need to be at their absolute best, not good enough, their best. Do you believe this Arsenal squad has what it takes to beat Atletico Madrid and reach a Champions League final? Be honest with us in the comments below. What this moment means for Arteta and the project. Let us take a step back and think about the bigger picture for a moment. When Mikel Arteta took over as Arsenal manager a few years ago, the club was in a really difficult place. They were not competing for Premier League titles. They were not in Champions League semi-finals. They were a club that had lost its way. Since then, the transformation has been remarkable. Step by step, Arteta has rebuilt this football club. He brought in the right players. He installed a clear identity of how the team should play. He created a winning mentality within the squad and the training ground. And now here they are, back in the final four of the Champions League for the second year running. This is not a coincidence. This is the result of years of work, planning, and belief. The fact that Arsenal have reached this stage, despite some difficult moments this season, including the loss to Bournemouth just before this tie, shows real character. When you lose a Premier League game and then come back to perform in Europe 3 days later, that tells you something about the mental strength of this squad. But for Arteta, the real measure of success will come in the next few weeks. Getting to a semi-final is brilliant, but everyone at Arsenal wants to go further. The fans want a final. The players want a final. The manager wants a final. This is the moment where all the work of the last few years either pays off or it does not. The community view. What do you think? Here at Gooner TV, we are not just a place where you come to read or watch content. We are a community, and communities talk to each other. So we want to know what you think about everything we have covered today. Do you think Arsenal put in a good enough performance against Sporting CP, or do you feel they got lucky? Was Martin Zubimendi the standout player on the night? What do you make of Victor Gyokeres and his struggles against his former club? Are you worried about the front three going into the Atletico tie? And most importantly, do you believe this is finally Arsenal's year in Europe? These are the conversations we want to have with you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us your ratings for the players. Tell us who you want to see start against Atletico. Tell us whether you think the Thierry Henry quote was real or fake, and whether it even matters. This is your space to speak. Use it. The bottom line, Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals. That is not a sentence you could have said with confidence just a few years ago. And yet, here we are. Wednesday night was not pretty. It was scrappy and difficult, and there were moments where you felt the nerves. But the result is what matters in knockout football. And the result was exactly what Arsenal needed. Martin Zubimendi reminded everyone what he is capable of. Eberechi Eze continued to prove he belongs at this level. The defense held firm when it needed to. And Mikel Arteta made the right decisions at the right times. Yes, Gyokeres had a night to forget. Yes, Madueke was poor. Yes, there is work to do before the semi-final. But these are things that can be worked on. These are things that can be fixed. Atletico Madrid are a serious test. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But Arsenal have been in this position before, and they have shown they know how to compete at this level. The question now is not whether Arsenal can get to this stage. They already have. The question is whether they can go one step further, 2 steps further, and reach the pinnacle of European club football. At Gooner TV, we believe in this team. We believe in this manager. And we believe that the best days are still ahead. Stay loud, stay proud. And as always, come on, you Gunners. We will see you in the next one. Written for the Gooner TV community. Share this with every Arsenal fan you know, and let the conversation begin in the comments below.